Alright, welcome back to part 2 of today's review of our drawing techniques that we've gone over this week. In part 1 we went over rough and oblique sketches. On the back of this page we're going to go over 1-point and 2-point perspectives. So once again we're going to take a moment and divide our paper down the middle so we can get both of our sketches on here. Remember again, perspectives are not an exact scale sketch, so we're not super concerned with getting the measurements exactly right, but we do want to make sure that they look somewhat proportional for the parts that we can control. To start our perspectives, we're going to have a horizon line. I'm going to go ahead and draw the horizon line all the way across the paper, just to set myself up for both of my drawings. I'm going to start out with the 1-point perspective, so I'm going to put one vanishing point up here. And remember, I am drawing the slant block. The pictures of all of our blocks are on the website. They're a sub-page of the sketching page called Block Pictures, if you want to see them that way. So again, I don't want to draw directly below my vanishing point. I'm going to come over to this edge a little bit. I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw a 3-inch long line. Doesn't matter exactly where, okay, but I'm just going to do it about 3 inches so I can hopefully stay somewhat proportionate. I'm going to go 1 3/4 up because in real world the block is 3 1/2. This edge was up 1 1/2 in real world, so I'm going to go ahead and go 3/4 here. This line was 2 inches real world, so I'm going to go 1 inch on my drawing. And connect those 2 points for the slant. One thing that a lot of people found easier on the 1-point perspective over the obliques was that you didn't have to try to keep all of your depth lines parallel, because we took them all to the vanishing point, which was also easier for me, I thought. So I'm going to go ahead and lightly draw this back from each corner to the vanishing point. Depending on where you position your drawing, it may look a little bit different because the angles of our points might change a little bit. I don't like that right there. That's not a very good job by me of lining my ruler up. So I'm going to redo that one. Okay, looks like I need to redo that one too. Not a very good start for me today, but that's okay. I can fix it. Much better. And better there too. What I want to do now is just kind of pick a depth that looks somewhat reasonable compared to the object. The object is quite a bit thinner than it is any other direction. So I'm going to pick somewhere over here, make sure my line is parallel. Make sure my line is parallel up here. Actually, I'm going to do my slant first so I can keep my thickness consistent. So notice the slant is parallel to the slant, not the x-axis or that first line we drew. I'm going to go there. I'm going to erase these lines that go back. And I'm also going to go back and kind of darken these lines, make sure they all match up pretty well in the corners. I want to give myself a consistent line weight, and I want my corners to be closed in. And not crossing over each other. And also not falling short of each other. And there we are. Probably need to do just a little bit of touch up on this as far as erasing these lines a little bit more, touching up my corners a little bit, but we're pretty close there to where we need to be. Okay, so on to 2-point. Like I've said many times, this is probably the more difficult of all the sketches we do. Sometimes because of how we draw them on the paper, we don't have a lot of room. The angles are pretty exaggerated. They don't look as realistic as we would like, but learning the technique is kind of what we're trying to do here. First thing I want to do once I've got my vanishing point set up is draw this front corner and try to draw it, in a good position and at a decent, reasonable height. What I'm going to do is draw this just barely left of center maybe. And today I'm going to draw from 3 to, let's go 4 3/4. And I'm going to call that my height right here. So that's a 1 3/4 inch long line somewhere close to the middle of your paper. From the end points of both of those lines, I'm going to go back to the vanishing point lightly. And I'm going to make the flying V, or whatever you all want to call it. Once I have that set up, I want to go ahead and get in my depth and my width. This was our y-axis, it was the height. I'm a lot longer than I am wide, okay? About 4 times, 6 inches to 1.5 inches. So again, this is just kind of an approximation. I'm going to draw another line on the y-axis in here, parallel to the existing line, and then I'm going to do one over on this side also, parallel to the existing line. From here, I'm going to cross over to my opposite vanishing point. To get us our overall size of our glass box that we're going to be drawing within. Once I have my overall size, I want to go through and pick what actually touches the glass box. And if you look at our shape, this portion, this 2-inch long portion up here, totally touches. The entire back portion here touches the outside. And the majority of the front face touches. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to find the point closest to us that we can identify on this line that's going to start to carve out the shape. And the first one is this 2-inch point. So that's about 1/3 of the way down this line since it's a 6-inch line. So I'm just going to approximate with a little bitty mark right there that I can cover up later. I'm going to go ahead and find this point here on the front. Okay, and this one is not quite halfway up, so I'm going to put it just a little bit below halfway on here. I'm going to go ahead and connect those 2 points so I can know what my front face is going to look like, because the slant is usually the part that throws people off. So I'm going to go ahead and connect those 2 from the top of this line right here at that point. That is the bottom part of our flat, so that is going to go back to the opposite vanishing point. Now I feel like I've got my edges that touch the outside of the box outlined. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to darken in what stays, and I'm going to get rid of what goes. going to erase my projection lines back a little ways, maybe an inch, inch and a half, 2 inches from the drawing, to clean it up a little bit. Also going to get rid of some of these other lines that I may not need right away. So we're to this point where I feel like we have the outside lines pretty much determined, and you can see the three shapes that touch the outside of the box. Again, it's a little awkward looking because of how sharp those angles are on this paper. Okay. At this point, what we did earlier was we kind of determined, hey, is there any other outside edges that can go back to a vanishing point? A lot of you probably see it. This one right here can determine our front edge. So I'm going to go back to the opposite vanishing point with this one. And then the last and most awkward line has to start here for the slant, and it just has to run parallel to this line. So I'm going to do my best to try to line my ruler up parallel. And there is the end of the lines on our slant block. Again, this one always looks really awkward in 2-point just because of the way that we draw it, how close we are to each vanishing point and that sort of thing. But hopefully yours looks something like this. When you get done with your slant block, you are ready to get a new piece of paper and work on the step block on your own. Okay? Guys, this is a whole lot like the very first thing we did, the L block. Okay? That's almost like the L block. There's just one more step. Okay? So I'm pretty sure you guys can handle that, and we will also go over that together after you give it an attempt. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming out and watching Coach Willis's YouTube channel.